Oh, that's great. Hold on. All right. Let's start this though. So I have some questions to ask all of you, even out there in the YouTubeverse. What is the number one battle royale game right now? Who is the best at that game? Who are the top players in that game? Who's really crushing it? Now, here's another question. Who is the top scholar in your field? Who's doing it best? What schools are the best for what you do? And what companies do what you want to do the best? If you only have answers to the first couple of questions there, you need more than a little assistance. You need college success coaching. Let's get started. So yes, I mean, hopefully you're going to go look that up now and you're going to be like, I totally knew. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, good job. And I can't wait for you to tell me what it is. Email me, eric@collegesuccesscoaching.com. I love to know who the preeminent people are in these things, but you need to know, right? Because if it's important enough to know who PewDiePie is, it's important enough to know who the top scholars are in your field. Those people are probably more important for you to be following. Why aren't you following them? Shame, for shame. Anyway, let's get on to the mug of the week. The mug of the week is not for shame. The mug of the week is amazing. It's the composition book, the Marble Notebook. I remember commercials for these things, but these were in every My So-Called Life and all these different shows. Whenever there was high school or college students, they all had these notebooks. It was that's how you knew it was a student. The hard hat and the clipboard is how you know it's the foreman when they're walking through the construction site. That's the same concept, but college or high school. Woo, that's a hot one. Wow. Jeez. I'm going to have to let that one go for a little bit. How are you all today? I'm super excited for you all to join in with us. I love when we get to talk about things that are dangerous and hard to deal with and make people upset and are dividing in our political spectrums. That's one of my favorite things because I know all of you who are here to learn and to be better than just great. And so what I know is that if you're an individual thinker and you can think and wrestle with ideas that are tough to handle and tough to deal with, that you're going to be open to these articles and my information that I'm going to give out to you. And then hopefully we can discuss ways to actually have conversations with people that doesn't cause them to run off screaming with their hair on fire, letting everybody know that you're a demon. So, that's always the hope. So let's get into it. This is the article of the week. The article of the week I have posted right there in the chat. And if you are watching this on the YouTube, you can see that in the description below. I have it pasted in there. Also pasted in there is something more important for you to find, which is the link to how to sign up to become a subscriber. I'm sure you will have questions, particularly after this article, that you will want answered, how to integrate the information that we're going to have here. And these are the discussions that spur other conversations on campuses everywhere, all across the country and in different parts of the world. Why aren't you a part of this awesome process? Students here are doing a lot more than just going to college and just graduating. We're doing great things together right now to be better people, to get a more meaningful life, to live a life of purpose and value. That should sound good to you. It's a lot better than just kind of flailing around doing what you're doing, which is not necessarily having a whole lot of purpose. So we have tools, we have assessments, we have interviews, we have experts, we have resources all on the website. You get all of that. You get the 2-week free trial. You get the $50 a week after that. What's there not to love? I can't wait to see you here on the next week. I know that this is the week that you're going to say, yeah, I'm probably going to do this. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait. But for now, let's all talk about this article, The Dangerous Silence in Higher Education. Already it has one of those buzzwords, dangerous. So here's the subtitle. By the way, this is from Life, a Life column from Spectator USA. Spectator USA, you will obviously remember from such publications as, and also, yeah, not common, not a huge publication. So, but still, I mean, it has a valid concern, and this comes from Samuel J. Abrams, which is a real person who is really going through something. So we should still take the information and consider it. This is not one of those things that is like, oh, it has great studies and a great end, because it's not that scientific. This is actually more, I would consider this like an opinion piece. They're putting it under life. I'm not sure what that means, because everything's life. I have a business called Holistic Life Consultants. What do we deal with? Everything in life. So this is about life. The dangerous silence in higher education. I suggested that more balance was needed in academic programming. Within hours, my office door and surrounding corridor was vandalized. Seems reasonable. Why would you want balance, psycho? It's well known that the question of who can speak and on what topics has become a flashpoint for controversy on our nation's college and university campuses. This is very true. I, the writer of the article, experienced intimidation firsthand after publishing an op-ed, see opinion, in the New York Times in which I questioned some of the seemingly liberal, lopsided programming at Sarah Lawrence College, one of the most proudly progressive schools where I am a tenured professor. Well, good for you. I suggested that more balance was needed given our polarized times and reiterated my concerns about collegiate ideological echo chambers. Seems reasonable enough. Within hours, my office door and surrounding corridor was vandalized. Okay. Pictures of my family were taken and bumper stickers that I had placed on the door to create a welcoming environment for students were stripped off. So somebody was taking creeper pictures of this guy's family and ripping things off his door that were supposed to make people feel welcome. Cool. All right, let's see what else they did. The vandals covered my door and surrounding hallway area with hateful paraphernalia intended to intimidate me into leaving the school. Wow. I received subsequent threats, and an alumna I have never met claims to be actively working on ways to ruin my life, while many others are demanding that my tenure be stripped, all because I wrote a relatively tame article with which they disagree. So that end piece is really kind of important because I don't know the article. He does not link the article. Oh yeah, he does. Hold on. I'm going to go to the article. So here's the Chronicle of Higher Education. Why college's liberal lean is a problem. In the New York Times columns on ideological echo chamber in higher education, Nicholas Kristof, which is not Abrams, argues that colleges embrace diversity on all kinds except for ideological. Unsurprisingly, while Kristof drew support from professors on and then it tells you like, oh, subscribe and you can only do it if you're part of the Chronicle. We're not going to be a part of the Chronicle. We are going to continue reading our article. But just so you know, like that was not the article that this Samuel Abrams wrote. I'm sure you can find it, but it's not clear what the article was. It might not have been so tame as he would like to portray it. Remember, everybody wants to portray themselves as the hero, and everybody wants to portray the people against them as the villain. This will be very important as we talk about the solution to this super extreme world that you might find yourself in on a college campus, but we'll get into that. Following the defacement of my door, I was disappointed by the lack of a clear stand against violence and intimidation and the lack of support from academic freedom and diversity of thought I expected from the college administrators. In fact, a note I received from a college official described the act as alleged vandalism. So let's break this down because this article is inflammatory. And I want to make that clear. This article is inflammatory. And I'll break down what I mean, because there are things that factually happened to this person. Fact, he wrote an article. Fact, it was about something to do with having diversity of thought on campus. We don't know what all was in that article or how it was written, but based on this article, it was probably a little bit more inflammatory than he's letting on. But fact, I'm not going to give my opinion as a fact. It's a fact that he wrote this article. Fact, his office had things ripped off the door. It had pictures of his family were taken, like the vandalism that went on in front that you can say is observably true. Like these observable things happened in front of his office door in the corridor. Those are all facts. Fact, he got a note from the college official, which we don't know which college official it was. So I'm not even sure what that means. If that's like the dean or if it's just somebody else involved, the head of the custodial people on campus, alleged vandalism. So that's really, really not useful. The fact is we didn't get a full statement written out for this person. So here's all the things that are conjecture, right? So the conjecture is that it was because of his concerns about collegiate ideological echo chambers that he was vandalized. Maybe he's just a jerk. Maybe he did something wrong and he got vandalized. Maybe he's done other things that are not this article that are inflammatory. We don't know. So that's conjecture that this is because of that. So you got to be really careful about that. Conjecture that his article was relatively tame and just because they disagreed with it, they vandalized his office. Conjecture that there was a lack of a clear stand against violence and intimidation from the administration. A lack of support for academic freedom and diversity of thought exists on the campus from college administrators. That's conjecture. That's his opinion. It wasn't strong enough. Well, what was he looking for? Like people to come out with like bats, or tiki torches? What was it that he was looking for? So it's conjecture. In fact, and then there is the fact that he received the note, but what else the note says, we don't know. So it's conjecture. The other thing that's interesting is he says he expected a certain amount of support from the administration. He did not ask for it. He did not have conversations with them before shooting off an article to the New York Times. So there was assumptions being made, and that didn't turn out to be great. And if there was a plan that could have been in place beforehand to protect this person, and we could have connected the dots and maybe had security cameras or something, we would have had a lot more facts instead of conjecture. Also, I can't prove that pictures were taken of this guy's family. I don't have them on here. It's not like he posted them. So he's making a lot of assertions, making assumptions, and making conjecture without a lot of evidence in this article, the article where he is explaining what happened. It's not great, right? This is not looking great. As far as an opinion piece that we're trying to back up with some kind of authority, it seems an awful lot like there's facts that are missing here about how serious his situation was. But maybe this is just the setup he wants to give to deal with the more widespread problem that, honestly, anecdotally, I can agree is a problem on campus, not necessarily to the degree that he's saying, but he says this attitude may be widespread when he's talking about there is a culture at Sarah Lawrence College which is regularly reinforced by various students, faculty, and administrators. Tacitly regulate what topics are open to debate and identify which questions should simply be overlooked for fear that asking them could lead to a significant negative consequence. And he's saying this attitude might be widespread. I don't disagree with that, and I'm sure I know some of you have written into me and we've talked about how this has been your experience on campus. But let's be really clear. You can't assume you know people's motivations, right? You can guess. And you know that for sure on your campus, it may be that any kind of certain opinions might be not looked upon favorably by the student body. That doesn't mean the administrators all agree with that. It doesn't mean that all the students agree with that. But you've seen the tarring and feathering of students on campus for certain things. And I know that for a fact. I've talked to you guys. I know this has happened. So that part is true. And it's one of the reasons why I brought this up, because I'm, as always, interested in solutions, not just complaining about problems. So a new national survey entitled Most U.S. College Students Afraid to Disagree with Professors was commissioned by the William F. Buckley Jr. program at Yale to distill how college students feel about the freedom to speak on campus. The results reveal that a majority of students not only feel intimidated about sharing their beliefs if they disagree with the faculty member teaching the course, but also that a majority of them worry about speaking up if their views seemingly conflict with their peers. So the first part of this, I will say, is not different. It's hard when you're like a freshman and sophomore in college and you're talking to a PhD in something or an MD, and they're saying like, this is my opinion on this, and they've done years of research, and you're saying, yeah, I don't know if I want to just raise my hand and bust the disagreement. It's great to do that. Please do it, because that's how you learn, and you should be challenging each other and growing and learning and doing research. But that's not really different than I would think usually if there's an opinion that the professor has in the class. A lot of kids will just kind of not say anything, or maybe set up time after class. My recommendation is set up a lunch or do office hours, talk to the professor, do some research beforehand, back up your position, and make an argument for it that could help you grow in your opinion. Why else are you at college? Anyway, regardless of politics and values, this is an absolutely terrifying finding, because campuses are the spaces where ideas should be voiced, challenged, and debated. While, again, I agree with the second half of that, I don't know how absolutely terrifying this is. The thing that is weird is that people they're afraid of conflicting with their peers. That's new. It used to be that, like, I'm no more into this information than you, or like, what do you know more than me? We should be able to argue about things. I mean, I remember having long conversations in student lounges late at night about all kinds of topics, religion and politics and philosophy and things. People are heated and they disagree and they get into it, but like, it was fun. Like, that was fun. That's what made it worth staying up till 2 a.m. to discuss. To be fair, I don't need as much sleep as the average bear. But you need more sleep, and get rest. Don't get sick, especially the end of the semester. Anyway, It's not just the students who are afraid. The fear of speaking truths or questioning others. Wow, that's a thing. Oh, we'll talk about that in a second. Or questioning others now silences the faculty who are meant to be thought leaders on campus. Conservative faculty members are at the most risk, but they're not the only ones at risk. And what this points out is, and from this study in Yale, which I did read, it is interesting. There is a fear of professors to say the wrong thing. Whether or not that fear is warranted, that's the culture on campuses, a lot of campuses. So maybe it's not founded or warranted, but people are self-censoring. And self-censorship is a dangerous thing on a college campus for exactly the reasons that Abrams is saying here. The fear of speaking truths, I mean, that's tough, right? Like, what truth are we talking about? That torturing innocent children purely for the fun of it is evil? Okay, I mean, I can get behind that's true. But like, what truths are speaking truths sounds an awful lot like I'm trying to say that I know the truth and you don't. And that's, I think, equally debilitating in a debate. So hopefully the what we're trying to do in a debate is find the truth. And if I'm genuine about my seeking the truth and thinking maybe you know something I don't, which is why you don't agree with me, and you thinking the same thing, hopefully the truth will emerge, or a truth will come out of it. Maybe even not in the one that we were trying to find, but there's this other truth that we found out, like we all think very similarly about our lives. And that would be great. And that's what should be happening. And self-censorship does stop that. So there is a real problem here that's kind of emerging. And that's my opinion. In a 2017 national survey of faculty, 71% of faculty agreed with the statement, "I feel comfortable sharing my opinion on my college campus with other faculty members." This number drops to 60% for those who identify as conservative and jumps to 82% for those who are liberal. Still 60% is okay. That's better than I thought. When asked, "Are you reluctant to express your political beliefs to your colleagues for fear of negative consequences?" 93% of the liberal faculty had no issue expressing their political beliefs to their college colleagues, compared to 2/3 of conservative professors. That's a huge difference. So there we go. So 2/3 of conservative professors are scared to tell their colleagues their beliefs. 93% of the liberal faculty do not care because they kind of know in that environment who's going to agree with them, and it's just kind of safe. Faculty were also asked, how often, if at all, have you avoided expressing a particular point of view on an issue because you expected a negative reaction from other students or faculty? 2/3 of conservative professors stated that they simply avoided sharing their opinions because of the negative reactions, compared to just 1/3 of the liberal professors. This significant difference is strong evidence that viewpoint diversity is being silenced. Being silenced, though, and again, is this being silenced? These people are endorsing that they self-censor. Now, it might be that it's because of the environment, but it might be unfounded. We don't know, but we do know that people are censoring themselves from a diversity of opinions, which again is a problem. So conservative professors, an endangered minority on campus, and there's a link to that to kind of show that that's true. I've looked into some research on that. It is kind of true. It's like 1 in 12 or 1 in 21, depending on the major that the professors are in, are conservative, are well aware of the possible ramifications of sharing their views and fear professional repercussions for disagreeing with their liberal faculty and administrative colleagues. Again, this isn't very different. I mean, you could say the same thing on a very conservative college campus, that if there was like 82% of them were conservative on the college campus, the liberal viewpoint might be more hesitant to come out from a professor because they might fear political repercussions. That like hey, I know that the majority of people here don't agree with me. So maybe I ought to kind of pump the brakes on throwing out all my opinions, because people might start to get like nervous around me and not really want to promote me. I just think that's politics. It just turns out that there's more liberal viewpoints with college professors at large in most colleges than conservative. But I think it would be kind of stacking the other way if it were the opposite. Well, let me know what you think on that, but that's just my opinion. Sadly, since the original vandalism, it appears that the college community may have been emboldened to now very publicly slander me, because no public statement was made by the Sarah Lawrence administration which linked vandalism and threats of violence to a piece of written work and explicitly condemned such action and asserted particular consequences. Threats of violence, vandalism, and slanderous claims have no place on campus whatsoever, and my story should be frightening to students and faculty who don't subscribe to their colleagues' groupthink. Well, here's where the guy kind of goes off the rails, right? I mean, he does say, I was worried that the college administration's decision to neither immediately or explicitly condemn the vandalism of my office door, nor demonstrate support for academic freedom, had the potential to animate and empower those people in the Sarah Lawrence community who want to silence dissent by using intimidating tactics. And then he kind of goes into how that didn't happen. So vandalism's bad. Violence is bad. For whatever reason, it doesn't matter. So this is where I am sympathetic to Abrams, because it kind of doesn't matter why this happened. It should not have been retaliated against, or he just shouldn't have had vandalism. Maybe it was just random vandals that weren't even going to the campus. But for whatever reason, Sarah Lawrence administration should have immediately come to the aid and support of any professor who has been threatened, intimidated, or vandalized. I mean, wouldn't you want that? This seems to be a huge oversight on this administration's part. And if I don't agree that all of the dots connect the way that Abrams says, I still agree with that point. Violence is not the answer. Slander is not the answer. Vandalism is not an answer. This is not how things get better. This is how things get worse. When you act out in those ways, it's because you see somebody as evil. Now, whether or not you subscribe to good versus evil, that's what you're doing. You are looking at them and saying it's okay to do something awful to that person because they are evil, and acting violently and aggressively toward evil is acceptable or good. It's a virtue to kill evil. So you really have to look at somebody as being quite an evil person to think that it's acceptable to be violent or threaten their family. I'm just going to take that stance and be solid on that. No wishy-washy on this. You're a piece of crap person if you do that to people. It's not acceptable. You want to incite violence. You want to incite fear in people because you disagree with them. That makes you the monster. Just so you're aware, that makes you the monster. It doesn't mean that I agree with this person's viewpoints. I don't know what their article was. I don't know what their stance was. I don't know if they did other horrible things. You're the monster if you're the one inciting violence and fear. That is actually how fascism works. It's when a government single party takes over the political forum by silencing the opinions of others and intimidating people and making them afraid to talk. Just so you know, look it up. That's what happens. So might want to rethink that one. Try not to do that. Try not to do, even with your friends, you're having arguments and things. Don't try to point at people and call them out and say loudly, oh, this person's this and that. Like, that's not helping anything. And you are contributing to self-censorship, which, as I just stated before, I think is a huge problem. After 3 weeks of me and countless others asking for the college president to take the right position, I don't know, I don't like that, but she finally issued a statement in support of free speech where she asserted that academic freedom is a fundamental principle of Sarah Lawrence College. That means, as a member of our faculty, Professor Sam Abrams has a right and the full support of the college to pursue and publish his work. The president also condemned the vandalism and threats of violence, but it is hard to say if students accept my right to speech. Hostile online chatter on the part of various faculty, staff, and students continues. So it took 3 weeks to get a statement from the president to say violence is bad. I mean, you hear me say this all the time, like drugs are bad, like, drink milk, get your vegetables, go to school, don't do drugs. All that, I mean, this is the same kind. It should be something so simple and rote and stupid, and it would have been easy to pen and throw out there, to compose something like that would have been really easy. Yeah, got to throw that in there. My safety was at a greater risk during those 3 weeks because between my op-ed and the president's response. While groups such as PEN America and FIRE issued strong statements in support of my right to write, they should have had to. The college they should not have had to. The college has stated institutional values of civility, mutual respect, and expression, but knowingly threw free speech under the bus at my expense. Again, this is very inflammatory, and it honestly sounds to me like this person's writing up a case for a civil lawsuit against the college. Which, let's be real, this happens all the time, right? People sue colleges because they were wronged, and depending on the state that you live in, you could kind of get away with it. I'm going to finish up this article and wrap it up, but I do want to talk about solutions to this. But I just always want to caution you, even when you want to agree with somebody, you want to think like, yes, I agree, and yes, look how bad this was. A lot of what was said in this article is not backed by fact, and it is inflammatory. So just be aware of that. Like, it really is, it's hard to know who to back up. It's hard to know when somebody's being disingenuous, especially in writing. This person seems like they're honestly not being totally forthcoming and genuine. Honestly, it doesn't mean I disagree with the sentiment, and I'm going to go over that again. But just be careful of people who are like this, like that are just kind of inflammatory and victimizing themselves. My recent incident and the data tell a clear story. Okay. Our colleges and universities have become places of intimidation for both students and faculty alike, and this fact represents a real existential threat to the health of both higher education and intellectual inquiry as an exercise. Everyone should have a voice and be able to ask questions and examine the world around us, even if the questions cause upset. Okay. The American education system has been the author for civility and our democratic polity since before the nation's founding. True. We as a society cannot allow so many on campuses to live in fear and remain silent. So I would just kind of tweak that a little bit, that we can't let people self-censor and like stand up and say what you believe, but do it in a safe way. And we're going to get into that in a minute on how to actually solve this problem. But I did want to bring this up because it's very controversial, and it's something that's come up several times for me every week that I've been working with you guys so far this year, and it's worse than it's been. So this has been the article of the week. So what do we do? What do we do? Do you self-censor? Do you believe that there is a climate of fear on your campuses? Do you believe that different opinions are being silenced actively, that administrations are not supportive of their faculty? Do you believe that your faculty is bullying you? Do you believe your peers have power over you because they can say something about you and make it worse for you to be on campus? Let me know. Throw that in the comments section or throw it on here. If that's true, here are some remedies for that. Number one, be perfect. That's really hard, and not everybody can. But what I mean by that is you need to be squeaky clean if you're going to jump up and try to fight a culture on campus. Because a culture on campus, whether it's very conservative, very liberal, very much a Sox fan, very much Yankees, whatever it is, if you are going against the political grain of a culture of anything, a company, like a church group, a grocery store, a book club, your college, if you're trying to go against that grain, be aware that there will be people who will look for things that you've done wrong. They will document things that make you look bad. So what's your solution? You just have to be perfect, because scandal can silence you just as easily as you self-censoring. I mean, somebody will be like, yeah, but that person's a real crazy person. Look at this video that they did. That's all it takes. So are you perfect? If not, let's go to step two. Step two, you can't just duck and cover. Unlike one of the first seasons of South Park where they're talking about ducking and covering to avoid lava, which didn't work either. Ducking and covering doesn't work. You can't just be silent, right? You hear this all the time. Your silence is deafening. You're not actually allowed to be quiet. So you had better know what to say. It's important to be clear when you have an opinion about something maybe controversial, that you can preface it with things that are not controversial. Things like, I don't like violence. I don't like hatred. I'm against hatred. I'm against bigotry. I like to hear people as individuals and treat people as individuals, and I like to treat people well. I want to be a good person. So if you can start out with that honesty, it can make it easier for you to be able to have an opinion on something. Having an unpopular opinion is not something that you always want to broadcast. I mean, like these professors were saying, well, I'm hesitant to kind of just say what I think. But again, what I was saying before, it might just be politically motivated, and that's smart. Why would you want to mouth off about something that everybody in the office disagrees with? Like, that's not a really great move. But it is better to build individual relationships with people, find out what they are like and what they like, and show the value of yourself as a person. A lot of times, the solution to this is personal relationships. The more people you have personal relationships with, and the more that they see you as a good person and somebody that, you know, generally agrees on the fact that people should be treated well and we shouldn't be violent and that we should all have a chance out there and that good is more important than bad in the world and don't put out bad energy. The more that you can show that and then stand next to somebody and walk with them, the easier it is to have conversations about topics, not positions. So that leads me to step three. Do not always just purport a position. Positions are great. It's great in debate. It's great when you know it's a structured format. You can do your research. They can do their research and you can argue. Other than that, it's not the most productive way to start conversations with people is to take up a position. It's kind of like, I'm going to plant my flag here. Well, now we're at war because I have a flag and you're going to put up your flag, and then we're going to fight to try to take each other's flags, which capture the flag. That's another great version of a lot of games, right? It's better than Battle Royale, I think, but it's more purposeful. But anyway, just talking about ideas and wrestling with them and like, what does that mean? Like, how is it that people can be treated equally but fairly? And is equal fair? I mean, what does that mean? And what are some scenarios where fairness is not equal and equality is not fair? Like, that's cool. We could talk about equality and fairness and how they relate. We'll wrestle with those ideas. I don't have to take a position up and be like, yeah, but totally, we should get rid of everything that makes things equal. You just put yourself out there as somebody that I need to defend myself against if I believe in equality and as just a topic. And remember that these are buzzwords. So number 4 is avoid buzzwords. Avoid words like liberal, conservative, Nazi, hatred, bigot, equality, affirmative action. You don't need these terms to talk about ideas. And honestly, these words have been so overused and so destroyed that it's not useful. You don't get anywhere talking and using those terms anyway. They actually shut down conversation. They are used to shut down conversation. Oh, so you just don't believe in equality? I guess I'm a piece. I'm bad. I'm a bad. So we're not going to talk about that. So it doesn't work. It's not useful. But if you have done some thinking and you've done some research on this as a topic, you will know how to talk about it without having to say the words, right? It's like when somebody asks you to define something, don't use the word in the definition. So if you really understand something enough to talk about it, which you probably should try to understand something well enough before you start trying to mouth off about it and talk about it, you will know how to discuss it without using the word in the definition. So these are all ways that you can help yourself to have conversations that are useful with people. And again, the last thing that I will say on this is don't try to change somebody's mind or convince somebody of what you think. Let's try to look for truth and be honest and genuine about it. If you find out that you're talking to somebody, and for the most part, this will be true, and they're not interested in being genuine, they're disingenuously trying to change your mind while saying that they're trying to find the truth, you can just stop talking to them and you can let them know, like, oh, I thought that we were trying to find the truth together. Okay. And then just walk away. Another powerful thing to say to people when they are trying to label you in the middle of a conversation, like, oh, you're just a conservative or you're just a liberal, and you hear all these nasty terms about both of them, say, oh, wow, I thought you were my friend. And hopefully you're talking to your friends. You're not trying to have random conversations with randos. But I thought you were my friend. What you just called me was very hateful. I don't like that. I don't appreciate that. And wait for them to apologize. And if they don't, then just let them know, like, wow, like, I don't feel like this is going to be a productive conversation. I'd love to keep talking to you when you're ready to apologize for what you said. That's it. Walk away. If you need more information on that and you want to talk and do a one-to-one, let me know. Throw some comments down there. Tell me more in the questions and answers. We'll go over different specific situations if you want. But if you are a YouTube subscriber, a non-subscriber, you're going to have to say adieu to us. And we're going to have to talk more about this in depth. And then we're going to be talking about how to bring this out to campuses. So anyway, it's really great to see all of you on YouTube. Please sign up, throw that into the subscription box, go into the link in the description, and then just become a member. Just become a member. It's time, right? Like, it's time. We need to talk and we need your information. We need your input. We need your questions to make this even better, because we're great, but great's not good enough. We want to be more exceptional, and you're the key to that. So I can't wait to have you all there. Otherwise, I will see you next week for the article review. And for my subscribers, stay tuned. We're going to keep talking about this.